Welcome. Tonight, we'll be traveling back in time, not to castles or crusades, but into the creaking, clattering, grimy heart of a medieval city. This isn't the world of kings and banners. This is the world of mud streets and chamber pots, of flickering candlelight and bread that's more brick than loaf. You'll step into the worn leather shoes of a common city dweller, perhaps a tanner's apprentice or a washerwoman rising before dawn. Surrounded by noise, smell, and the slow churn of survival. We'll then follow the footsteps of a man who challenged the power of kings, only to vanish from the pages of history in a single moment. Later, we'll drift into one of the strangest mysteries of the Middle Ages, an epidemic of dance, movement, and exhaustion that no one could explain. And finally, we'll pass through the heavy doors of a noble household where silence and spectacle keep the world at bay. Let the past wash over you now. You don't need to remember dates or names, just the rhythm of the cobblestones, the smoke in the air, the hush of candles, and the weight of history. Now, close your eyes if you'd like. We begin quietly in the middle of the city. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Let the present melt away. The modern world, the hum of appliances, the glow of screens, the soft support of your mattress, it all fades now, piece by piece. You're somewhere else. Imagine you are a commoner in a medieval European city. The year might be 1370 or 1415. The century doesn't matter much. Life hasn't changed all that dramatically for someone like you in a very long time. They are half timber-bird, patched with daub, and stacked with small rooms. Above, laundry lines cross the narrow lanes like ribbons, draped with linen shirts, rough hose, and woolen underclothes. You live in the lower district of the city, sometimes called the stew, and the buildings here lean toward each other as though exhausted. Your home is one room, maybe two if you're lucky. Maybe the bell of the nearby friary has rung, or maybe your father is already awake, coughing as he pulls on his boots. The floor is uneven wood planks, or packed earth trodden smooth over years. There is no chimney, only a smoke hole in the roof, and so the walls were a film of soot like the inside of a lantern. Beneath it, you wear a linen shift, the only garment you don't share. Rainwater from the night before has mixed with the city's refuse. Everything runs into the central gutter. It's rarely washed, neither are you. Water is heavy to haul and difficult to heat, so full baths are rare, perhaps once a season. His apron is already stained with ochre and gray from lime water. He nods once, you nod back. You soften it in weak ale knot, because you like the taste, but because the water isn't safe to drink. In the winter, almost never. Your clothes are rough-spun wool and faded linen. You wear them every day. A tunic belted at the waist, hose pulled over your legs. You might spend your days scrubbing wooden floors with lye, or hauling water from a public fountain waiting in line, then dragging the weight of it home in a sloshing bucket. Your teeth feel it. Many people your age, mid-20s already, have worn molars or missing incisors. a cap to keep in what little warmth you can. If not, you may labor for a craftsman, sweep stalls in the market, or gather dung for fuel. There are no offices, no career paths, just tasks assigned by the people who own things. A bell rings in the abbey, marking terce, then sext. Your back aches, your hands are rough, and the familiar rhythmic cry of a baker's boy hawking bread. Hot loaves, fine rye, he calls. There are clothes to mend, tools to clean, a hearth to tend. It's better not to. A mouse scurries in the thatch overhead. Your brother coughs beside you. The fire flickers low. The night brings a kind of stillness, but also the knowledge that tomorrow will repeat everything again. You heat a small pot of gruel over the fire, careful not to let the flame go out. Tit takes precious time and wood to relight it. His voice cracks with the morning chill. The air smells like last night's cooking cabbage, onions, and a sour note of grease from a bit of pork. The houses are too small and dark to remain inside for long. There is no insulation. The walls are thin. In summer, they trap the heat. In winter, they fail to keep it out. Wood smoke hangs in the rafters, swirling slightly in the draught. Perhaps a stew made of cabbage, leeks, and lentils. Sometimes with barley, rarely meat. You dip bread in the pot and pass it around. If you're lucky, you have a bit of cheese aged until it's sharp and slightly dry. Tanners boil hides in pits of urine and lie. Butchers toss bones into the alley until the collectors come. The open sewer down the center of the street carries more than rainwater. Your family, your parents, siblings, and perhaps a grandparent sleep nearby. There is no privacy here, no silence either. Your blanket is coarse wool. You stir at first light. There is no clock, just habit. You open the shutters. The city is already moving. You hear footsteps in the alley, cartwheels creaking on stone. You rise and dress in the half-light. Downstairs, you lift the chamber pot carefully and step outside. The street is narrow and glistening with moisture. You empty the pot quickly. Some splash, no one notices. Everyone else is doing the same. As you return inside, you see your neighbor across the way, a tanner's apprentice, pouring a slop bucket down a side drain. Your breakfast is simple. Yesterday's bread, if you have it. The bread is dense, hard at the crust, crumbly in the middle, with bits of husk and grit. You might work in a trade if your family is part of a guild. If you're a woman, perhaps you sew in the home or help clean others' houses. You spend most of your time outdoors. Whether it's rain or sun, the city smells alive. But not in a pleasant way. It's the smell of animals, of people, of refuse and smoke. You do your best not to breathe too deeply. Midday comes. You eat again if there's food. You return to work. The hours pass not by the sun, but by habit. By evening, you are tired, but not idle. There is no bath to sink into, no cushion to lean on. Somewhere nearby, a drunken argument erupts. You hear a scuffle of feet, a sharp voice, then silence. You don't look out the window. You lie back down. The straw mattress crunches under your weight. You close your eyes and drift into the soft, uncertain sleep of the medieval poor. Let's walk now slowly into a quieter story. Instead, we move toward the soft green fields of southern England. You're still in the medieval world, but we're leaving behind the smells of the city. The slosh of chamber pots, the clatter of carts and coins. The wind blows through barley. A rook calls in the distance. And far down a dirt path, a man is working on a rooftop. His name is Watt. He's not a nobleman, not a bishop, not even a town reeve. On Sundays, he walks to the parish church. On feast days, he might share a mug of ale with his neighbors. When there's trouble in the village, people come to him. He listens. He speaks calmly. He doesn't shout. He's a tiler, someone who lays down baked clay tiles, one by one, across rooftops. He works with his hands. His back is strong from years of lifting. The graveyard's swollen. Every village knows loss. Every family is missing someone. His wrists bear the marks of his tools. His work is plain but essential. Shelter is always in demand. Wat Tyler? You probably wouldn't notice him, not at first. Every man, woman, and child owes the same, regardless of wealth. They inspect girls inappropriately, trying to determine if they're old enough to be taxed. Some stories are exaggerated. Others, perhaps, are not. A laborer pays as much as a baron. Even children must pay. For families already struggling to feed themselves, it is a quiet cruelty. Maybe just a shove, a word too far. Maybe more. He lives in Kent, in a modest home, just big enough for a wife, a daughter, a few chickens scratching the earth nearby. Others say he drives him off. No one knows for certain. A moment when the entire balance of power in England would quiver. That the laws protect lords, not laborers. That justice is distant and always expensive. This is the man who would one day lead tens of thousands, not into war, but into a moment of unimaginable tension. But let's not rush. Let's rest in the time before the storm. They refuse to be counted or to pay. At first, it's just noise. Then the numbers grow. His hands are rough, like theirs. His words are plain, and he listens. It is the late 1370s. England is wounded, but the landowners resist. The nobles try to push wages back down. All walking they pass. Laws like the Statute of Laborers, which freeze incomes, tie people to their lords, and threaten punishment for those who ask for more. Life must go on. The Black Death which swept through the land a few decades earlier has taken half the population. Half the fields are emptier. And yet, some carry longbows, others hold staffs or tools. It is not an army. It is something stranger, quieter. They move through Cheapside, past St. Paul's. They look at the homes of the wealthy, the palaces of power, something modern, before the modern world. Those who remain find their labor more valuable. There are fewer workers, and so wages rise for a time. And then comes the tax. A poll, tax flat, and universal. Worse, rumors spread. Tax collectors, they say, are rough. This is the moment according to later chroniclers. When Wat Tyler steps forward, a taxman comes to his home. His daughter is there. Something happens, and Tyler reacts. Some say he strikes the man down on the spot, but something inside him shifts. He sees what many others are seeing, that the burdens placed on the poor are becoming unbearable. Then, in May of 1381, it begins, first in Essex, then in Kent. Small groups gather, they burn tax documents. They smash symbols of oppression. Farmers, bakers, weavers, tanners. Wat Tyler is tasked to lead them. He does not seize power. He doesn't shout from a pulpit, but people trust him. From Kent to London, they march. They carry banners across as saints, the colors of their guilds. They stop at abbeys. They sleep in barns. As they move, more join. In Canterbury, they free prisoners. In Maidstone, they meet other leaders, men like John Ball, a preacher who questions the very order of things. Ball speaks the words that will echo for centuries. When Adam delved, and Eve span, who was then the gentleman, a call to remember that hierarchy is man-made, not divine. Then they reach London. Imagine the sight. Tens of thousands gathered outside the city walls. Londoners, many sympathetic, open the gates. There is no battle. The people walk in. They do not loot. They do not burn. But they do go to the Tower of London. They find two men, Robert Hales, the treasurer responsible for the poll tax, and Simon Sudbury, Archbishop of Canterbury. They are executed, quietly, efficiently. These are not the wild riots that some nobles fear. There is discipline here. Wat Tyler holds the reins tightly. On June 15th, he meets with the King Richard II, just a boy. The meeting is held in Smithfield, a broad field just outside the city walls. Tyler rides out. His horse is steady. His tunic is simple. He asks for the abolition of serfdom, fair rent for peasants, the dismissal of corrupt officials. The king appears to agree. But then something strange happens. But the mayor of London, William Walworth, draws a dagger and stabs him. Tyler turns. He may have reached for his cup or spoken sharply. We don't know. It is sudden, confusing. The rebels are stunned. Tyler retreats wounded to St. Bartholomew's Hospital. But he's followed, captured, and killed. His head is placed on a spike, displayed above the river, a warning to all. But even now, the rebels wait. They are still peaceful, still listening. They do not rush to fight. Then the young king, barely more than a child, rides out alone. He lifts his hand. "You have no leader," he says, "but I will be your captain." And somehow they believe him. They disperse, quietly, respectfully. They return to their villages, to their fields, to their workshops. Only later will they learn. The king's promises are false, the pardons revoked, the laws restored. The executions begin. The revolt is over, and Wat Tyler is gone. But the memory of that moment when common people marched into the capital of a kingdom and demanded fairness does not fade. In quiet corners, in ballads, in whispers, people remember. They remember a man who worked with his hands, who spoke plainly and led not for glory, but for justice, who, for one brief summer, showed a frightened kingdom what courage looked like. No monuments were raised, but his name, Wat Tyler, endures. Let us now drift gently into a story that feels like a dream, or perhaps a fever. This is not a tale of kings or castles, not a battle or a revolution. It is stranger than that, and quieter. The year is 1518. We are in Strasbourg, a city nestled beside the winding Rhine River, within what was then the Holy Roman Empire. It is summer, the month of July. The air is heavy. Merchants from across Europe pass through its market stalls, but even here life is difficult. The harvests have failed. The people are hungry. The church looms large over daily thought, and fears of illness, of sin, of divine punishment are never far away. The sun rises early and lingers long, casting sharp shadows across tiled rooftops and weathered timber beams. Strasbourg is not a backwater. It is a city of trade and learning. And then, one morning, a woman begins to dance. There is no music, no laughter. She steps out into the narrow street and, before anyone can stop her, begins to sway. Her arms rise, her feet shuffle and twist. Her face is not joyful, it is blank. She does not speak, she does not stop. She simply begins to move. Her name is recorded as Frau Traphia. Perhaps she is a housewife, perhaps a widow. We do not know. At first passers-by watch in confusion. Then concern, they call to her, try to touch her arm, but she does not respond. She dances through the morning, through the afternoon, and into the dusk. As the shadows lengthen and the candles are lit behind shuttered windows, she continues, and then, the next morning, she is still dancing. Not alone now. Others have joined her. 5, 10, 20. Men and women caught in the same strange compulsion. They move without direction, without harmony, as if driven by something inside door, something beyond. They twist and stamp, arms flailing, eyes glassy. For more dancing, no music, no drums, no feast. The prevailing theory among doctors at the time, grounded in the ancient theory of the four humors, was that this was a kind of hot blood affliction. But to coax the illness out, an internal imbalance, a fever of the mind and body. The only way to treat it was to let it burn itself out. Just movement. By the end of the week, the number has grown. Dozens, by some counts, more than 100 by others. And soon Strasbourg's council confounded, alarmed. But oddly makes a decision that, to our modern ears, may seem almost surreal. They hire musicians. They build a stage. Others are taken away, carted to the countryside, where the humors might cool, where the madness might settle. But the image is clear. A city square filled with moving bodies, day and night, dancing in torment. They open a public space. It is not cruelty, it is medicine, or what passed for medicine. And so they play lutes and pipes. They beat drums. The remaining dancers are sent to a mountain shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, long associated with neurological disorders and unexplainable convulsions, not for celebration, a response to trauma and repression. Strasbourg was under intense stress, famine, disease, political uncertainty. People were anxious. The soul, they say, sought a release the body could provide. In times of spiritual pressure, these ancient rhythms buried deep in cultural memory might have surfaced again. Perhaps those who danced were not mad, but remembering. And still, the dancers do not stop. Their shoes are worn through, their feet bleed, their bodies tremble and sag. Some collapse briefly, then rise again, but it has left its shape in ink written down by monks, physicians, and chroniclers who tried to understand what they had witnessed. By some estimates, more than 400 people take part in this strange, painful ritual. The numbers vary. The sources contradict one another. And then, one by one, the dancers begin to disappear. Some die from exhaustion, dehydration, perhaps even heart failure. It contains powerful, psychoactive compounds related to LSD. In high doses, it can cause twitching, hallucinations, and muscle spasms. Was it in the grain? The authorities try a new approach. They're barefoot and wrapped in white cloth. They are led in procession, prayed over, and asked to lay down symbolic offerings, wreaths, candles, wooden figures carved in their likeness. And slowly, slowly, the dancing ends. Only lines in a ledger. And yet, something about this story lingers. It stirs something inside the quiet listener, a memory or a warning. But still, when we are tired, when the sky feels low, when the clock moves too quickly or not at all, the old mysteries whisper, the dancing plague of 1518 fades from Strasbourg. It has left no graves marked by its name, no great songs, no epic. Centuries later, we are still wondering, the whisper of a breeze moving through narrow streets, a pipe faintly somewhere far away. What truly happened? Some suggest ergotism, a condition caused by eating rye bread contaminated with ergot, a fungus that thrives in damp grain silos. Others argue it was mass psychogenic illness, what we now call mass hysteria, or perhaps it was something older still. A memory of pagan trance dances, long repressed but never forgotten. There is another theory, softer still, that it was grief. That the dancing was a kind of mourning too large for words. That when words failed, when prayers fell silent, when the church gave no comfort and the fields gave no food, the body spoke in the only language left: motion, repetition, ritual. We cannot say for sure. There are no photographs, no survivors' accounts. We live in a world of reason now, or so we believe. The rhythm returns, step by step. You can almost hear it. the muffled stomp of bare feet on packed earth, and above it all, silence. Not joy, not rage, just movement. Let us turn our gaze from the dancing streets of Strasbourg and wander south, toward stone palaces and warm air, toward velvet shadows and flickering torches, toward the shimmering incense-sweet world of courtly Spain. It is the 16th century, the height of the Spanish Empire. Its kings sit not just on thrones in Madrid, but claim dominion across oceans, deserts, and distant jungles. Silver flows in from Mexico, gold glitters from Peru. But here, in the great courts of Castile and Aragon, it is not conquest we observe, but performance. Spain, newly crowned with the wealth of the Americas, is a land of gold and grandeur, a kind of ritual theater, played with fans, forks, jewels, and silence. And beyond, lit by candlelight, lies the banquet hall-along table, gleaming with polished metal, white linen, and dozens, sometimes hundreds of dishes, arranged like chess pieces in an edible procession. We enter through arched doors. A breeze stirs the heavy tapestries. But this is no ordinary meal. This is a feast at the royal court. Perhaps a musician, perhaps only a quiet observer, not out of fear, but out of tradition, which is stronger, watching, than sweet and savory pies. Filled with spiced pigeon, almond paste, or preserved orange peel. Then great platters of meat boar, and you are not one of the nobles seated in silk. You are nearby, perhaps a servant. The air is heavy with the scent of rosemary and roasting meat. These are marvels of the age, proof of wealth and power, but also fleeting. They melt, they crumble. Lutes play softly in the gallery above, their notes drifting like mist. Instead, diners use 3 fingers, carefully cleaned between each course with damp cloths scented with citrus. Pages walk silently on slippered feet, each one trained to step in perfect time, the way to fold a napkin or speak if at all between courses. There is no room for appetite here, only display. The king sits beneath a canopy. His beard is trimmed. His expression is distant. Too much, and the drinker risks disgrace. Even drunkenness must be calculated. They pluck geese, grind spices, glaze tarts, polish vessels until they gleam like mirrors. Perfumes are latombre, myrrh, musk masking the scent of meat and sweat. They say we can turn even flowers into food. Others manage the fire, the ovens, the cooling cellars. To dine at court is not to eat, it is to perform. Every gesture is rehearsed. Let us stay a while longer in the soft candlelight of that fading room. The way one sips from a goblet, the angle of the hand when reaching for a fig, for in this world, one misstep, one error of etiquette could mean exile, or worse. They are insults to hierarchy, echoes of savagery. The noble guests, dukes, counts, ambassadors observe every rule. But what is served? First, delicate broths, ladled into bowls of pewter or porcelain. The chefs labor for hours. Some dishes are never meant to be eaten at all, but only admired. On special occasions, guests might be offered sugar sculptures, seatable towers, shaped like castles or saints, tinted with saffron and rose water. There are no forks yet, at least not for everyone. The fork is still a novelty in much of Europe, perhaps a few onions. Their fingers are stained with labor, not saffron. No one eats quickly. No one laughs aloud, at least not near the king. To dine in his presence is to enter a sacred choreography, low, elegant, precise. Behind the scenes, servants bustle quietly. Some have been preparing for days. Wine is poured not in abundance, but with care. After the main courses, a pause. The hall is aired. Then comes the sweet course marzipan, jellied fruits, scented custards, sweetbreads, and candied violets. These are indulgences, but also messages. They say, we control sugar once rarer than gold. And as the final plate is cleared, a slow silence descends. The feast has ended, not with applause, not with conversation, but with a glance from the king, a nod from the steward, and a slow retreat. No one lingers. To linger is to intrude, but let us linger. What we've seen is not just wealth, but anxiety. Anxiety woven into every embroidered sleeve, baked into every tart, folded into every gesture. The poor had their daily hunger, but the rich their daily performance. To be noble was to live in a kind of golden cage, one lined with velvet and pearls, yes, but a cage nonetheless. And as the candles burn low and the guests withdraw, we are left with an image, a cold plate, a smear of honey, a silver spoon resting just so. And outside, far below the stone balconies, the quiet city breathes. The market stalls are empty. The alley cats move through shadows. The poor eat simply, if at all. Bread, cheese, but they do not bow to eat. Let us return now, slowly, to the outskirts of the city. The loud courts and dancing crowds are behind us. In their place, a still morning haze over the river, birds chirp faintly. The sun, not yet warm, spreads a muted glow across stone and red, and shirts stiff with the grime of daily life. They share stories as they beat the cloth against smooth, water-worn stones. The rhythm is familiar, steady, slap, twist, rinse, repeat. They see the undergarments of the nobility, the torn sleeves of beggars, the blood-stained rags from the surgeon's table. Everything passes through their hands. They notice who is pregnant before she tells anyone. They know who is taken ill, who has not changed their sheets in weeks. Their muscles know the motion. Their minds drift. Their fingers are raw. Their backs ache from years of lifting, wringing, scrubbing. Here, crouched at the water's edge, are the washerwomen. Their days begin long before most others. The city still slumbers as they carry baskets down winding lanes, filled with linens, aprons. They work in pairs, sometimes in threes, laughing in low tones or murmuring about city gossip. The river is their workplace and their confessional. and begin the long walk home, already knowing they will return tomorrow. The work is endless, and few thank them for it, but they are as essential as any scribe or knight. Without them, the city would rot, and when the sun finally rises in full, they wring out the last tunic, sling the bundles over their backs. The bell tolls slowly, once, twice. It echoes through the square. People gather without urgency, forming a loose circle near the raised platform. A trial is about to begin. This is not the grand stage of royal courts. His face is hard to read. No jury box, just a handful of local elders, seated with quiet sternness, and a clerk scribbling notes with slow, deliberate strokes. And then the accused speaks, or doesn't. This is the justice of the people, public, immediate, and imperfect. The accused stands in plain clothes, hands bound with rope. Perhaps he stole bread. Perhaps he insulted a noble. Perhaps something worse. There is no lawyer to defend him. The belief God will protect the innocent and punish the guilty. Witnesses speak, some reluctantly, others with fervor. Sometimes the verdict is swift, a fine, a whipping, an apology. Other times it is left to ordeal. Hot irons, cold water, oaths sworn under divine watch. This is justice as it was practiced, public, mystical, and uncertain. You may watch without speaking, sensing the unease in the crowd, and when the sentence is done, the platform is cleared. The crowd thins, the square returns to ordinary life, but the memory lingers. And now, as we leave the Spanish court, as the torchlight flickers and fades into the quiet of night, we return. Slowly, from the distant past to the softness of now. The ritual of elite feasting, all of it, settles gently into the background. The medieval city behind us, the dusty roads of rebellion, the strange rhythms of mysterious dances. You are not in the crowd. You are not on the rooftop. You are not beneath a chandelier. You are simply here, in stillness and quiet, and the past, strange and heavy, drifts away. Like candle smoke, in the dark,